Welcome back to mech200. This time we're moving along into drawing what's not in front of us or not available for reference, trying to get towards design sketching. Going to draw a fish shape of all things. Got a good combination of swept shapes and simple outlines with some good surfacing options. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's going to be some sort of shark, I suppose. Probably a white shark in the generic way that we're used to sharks. I'm going to try and draw fairly large. Make sure I can see all my paper. So I'm going to try and draw simple shapes. Nose down over here, tail up here. So we're going to begin by a center line, which is maybe curved. Some points of interest, which are the tail, the nose. About halfway up of our shark is going to be the tail fin or the back fin. Then we have about a third of the way along the forefins, and then a sort of another fin underneath the shark. The tail is actually swept, of course, and tends to be bigger on the top. This top fin here is smaller. Once we've got the shape, we will load or kind of guess our way through the profile and just kind of build it up bit by bit and kind of map out where our fins are. Quite a short, they've got quite a paddle shaped fin, quite far forward. The back fin is more notorious from Jaws and all the rest. got a fin at the back which is quite shorter than the side fins, and comes around to merges into the back with quite a swept tail. The tail tends to be about, I'm looking at an image here on my computer, it's about the size of this fin. The other fin matches the top. We might be able to see the end, and we'll decide on this as we go. The far forefin, I'm not sure. This goes to the middle of the animal. There's 5 gills, and the eye is quite far along. There is a little bit of a mouth shape. We won't be seeing the mouth, but we'll emphasize the mouth on this guy. My proportions are a little fat, so we're going to slim them down as we go, or her. Then we're going to curve it slightly into the background here, mostly from above. So we can start with a nose, the tail, just kind of trying to get where I'm going here. Don't want to go too far beyond this, end up out of the paper. So maybe kind of here, and we'll have them bending slightly in space. So just erasing things to keep everything under control. About halfway along is our top or dorsal fin. And I suppose we would have a ventral fin and I don't know what these are called, side fins, paddle fins, whatever they are. They're about a third and a third. So we've got a third tail. So here's our third. So we're trying to figure out where our fins are. This guy is going to stick fairly, like if this is our horizontal, it's going to go slightly down and we'll go in the other way. So we'll see if we can see that. Not sure on the length right now. This fin will have vertically. These fins are actually, they're coming from the center line quite a bit down. And we probably won't be able to see the far side. The tail here, got a kind of confluence of shapes coming in here. The shark is kind of flatter at the back with a tail coming out. So of course, sharks have a vertical tail. Dolphins and whales and such have horizontal tails. So just trying to get an idea of where our tail is. It's quite a big tail. And this part here again is about the same size as this guy. So once we get this set up, be able to figure out the final shape of the tail. Our nose, we're going to have it fairly nose down, is kind of rounded and it gets quite thick. So around about the middle, we're going to draw a hull in a way, kind of a, I don't know what we would call it, a hull shape or a profile. So towards the middle of the shark, they're quite thick, quite a sturdy animal. And we'll say that the midpoint, this is not the spine of the animal, or it could be-ish, but we're trying to say it's quite a thick animal, especially through this middle part here. So fairly round. Again, got starting to develop a sort of flatness here. So it's going to be maxed out there and kind of come around to the top. Very rough shape. So this is kind of our thickness. So quite a round, it's not narrow, like a salmon would be quite narrow and long. So this is our shape. As we go around towards the back, it flattens out. So here at the tail, we've got more of a paddle shape. The tail itself is obviously going to come out of the top here. So start to discover where things are actually stuck in. Now, top of our tail is here, or sorry, dorsal fin. So we need a line kind of along the top here. It's going to be close to the middle. So our top fin comes out here. And the typical sort of scary shark shape. And I'm going to make it about, looking at my reference, it's about probably the height of half the body. So too high here. So whatever this is, so I'll just get rid of that. No need to get carried away. Try and keep the shark looking correct. And it's got a fairly vertical, almost symmetrical fin, right? It's not like so. So that's not right. So it's got quite a simple shape here. So we'll say that's its thickness. So it goes around and follows the body up. Again, it's not a thin thing. It's got some heft here for stability and all that stuff. As it comes around to the front, these sharks have quite a thick head, or quite a large part behind their head. So we broaden out almost immediately and then kind of come around and join our shape. There's kind of a edge here, almost like a chin shape. So I'm going to map that in a little bit at the start here. So this is a kind of a flatness on the top, and it blends out into the rest of the shark. Underneath is actually, if you look at these sharks, if you get a sample photo, they're actually quite a bit underneath. So they start immediately coming along. There's a sort of indented in, that's too much. Kind of an in spot where it kind of quite thin around the top of the head, and then there's a bulk where the mouth starts and bulges down into the belly. So we won't be able to see the mouth entirely, but we will get an impression of a mouth as it comes around, because we're looking kind of down on top. Around the back here, we can start to map in the holes after the fact. So there's our middle point. So where is our ventral fin, or whatever we're calling it? It's quite a thick little body here. We're saying it's quite round, and where we see this, wherever we want the angle to be, it's going to poke out. Kind of there's quite a small fin, and blends into the body again. Similar shape to this top, but just kind of rotated around. So I'm looking at my sample. It does start, so erasing that a bit. So trying to feel our way through here, starts with a blend and then kind of curves around. There's my rear fin. We're missing our big fin here. Now, again, looking at my sample, we have this spot here about a third of the way through the animal. We want to start our midlines and all the rest of it. So we have this quite hefty part here. It's quite blocky almost, slab-sided around this part. This is where our fin's going to come out. The horizontal is kind of here. It's below, and it's also shifted down. So it's quite low, almost like a low wing through the animal. So we'll draw it like so. So I'm saying it's kind of starts actually quite low down and fairly close to the end of the mouth. The mouth might be too far up here. So just trying to keep it proportionally correct. Mouth is too far back. there's my, I think that's fairly good. So about a third back here, mouth of that length, about a third from the front. This guy is quite long and fairly slab-sided, and actually not that angled down. So this angle here is not too bad. So follow that edge. It's quite flat on the front and has a significant thickness at the front. So I have two samples I'm looking at here. One of them has variation in the animal. One has, it's quite a wide guy, almost truncated from this angle. The other one that I'm looking at is more like so. So however you want to see it, I've got two samples. I'm going to go with the more less angled, but quite far out, about the width of the animal. So by the time we get back here, it's looking here, it's actually quite a big wedge at the back of the fin where it joins on. So got a fairly stable thickness, and then towards the end, at the close to the animal, it splits and goes back into the animal. Looking at it, it's actually separated back here. So this part here separated from the animal. So will we be able to see it on the other side? Well, because we're using a sort of a bar line here, we can kind of measure across. So yeah, we would be able to see this end coming out. Now this is going to be quite foreshortened and stretched. So in a way, what we can do is just kind of guess our way through here. And just say it's going to be kind of visible. It's up to you. A lot of the angles of these sharks, you can't see this fin sticking out because it's in perspective. For us, I'm gonna try and show it in proper projection. So I'm gonna say we can see it, and the whole animal now is slightly curved. Our tail, last piece, quite actually, Reese goes quite angled quite deeply back, and it's, for me, the one I'm looking at has a double sort of bend, like a kind of a break in the front edge. The underside is more smooth, and from our point of view, it will just pop out quite straight. So my first angle is incorrect, but it does have a sort of a fine shape. It's got a typical fish shape, so double, almost like a wing. At this point it rounds off and comes up to the back. Now the back is narrow like this guy, so in a way we've got this fin here, that fin there, so it is balanced. At the top of this, got quite a narrow, and then interestingly, both of them have a little, seems to be standard, a little jig or jag at the very tip of the tail. And depending on the shark, this part seems variable. So one of them has quite a sharp return, the other one not so sharp. We'll go with, again, we're following this one. This one matches up here. So the key thing here though is this bend. An extra fin or a jag, there's a biological word for that. This isn't so good right now, coming around the middle, so this is too low, bending it up, tidying up my sketch, and trying to emphasize the fact that it's coming out here. So if there's a lot of graphite building up as you're finding your lines, just lighten it out. So I've got an eraser which is well used, and I want to make sure that I can see the flatness of its tail structure coming around here. If you want, you can kind of erase or lighten the stuff that's not helping, and we can see our shape starting to emerge here. So we'll shape this later, but again, just trying to edge it, clean it up to the point where we can see our structure emerging correctly. There's some bends in the tail, which is interesting, and the tail, depending on your projection, is fairly tall, and again, depends on the position of the fish. But the one I am looking at, the tail's actually poking up quite a bit more than the main fin or the dorsal fin. We can modify that as we go, but just reassuring myself where the midline of the animal is. So just getting this down here. So we've got our silhouette coming around, going past the back. Our fish is in the middle. Last but not least, where is the eye? The eye is important in any animal sketch. It kind of defines the size of the animal. Smaller animals tend to have bigger eyes. For us right now, looking at this, the eye is actually before the mouth. We can imagine the mouth coming around underneath. It's kind of aligned. So our eye is not huge, and it's towards the front of the animal. Our mouth is a little more stretched out. And the nose is kind of poking up. So that's my layout. Some questions about this fin on the far side. It's not too bad right now. That might change. This is looking okay. The tail is constructed correctly, and we've got a nice gentle curve to our shark right now. So the next video we'll pick up on coloring this guy or shading this guy and trying to figure out how to show these sorts of shapes. Thanks for watching. Next video will be the crosshatch.